So this is what happened. I realized that for the snow shadow color, I diluted the mountain shadow color. Not a effective way to do that. I'm going to run into a problem of it being difficult to differentiate between snow and mountain, because snow, being white, will take on the whatever light is hitting it with a lot more pure and vivid color than something like a dark grayish brown rock or whatever else these mountains are made of. So I'm just reapplying shadow color of the mountain, not the snow. And so the first way I attempted this, I'm going to demonstrate again real quick. So we're just doing red and blue to get a dark gray violet shadow color on my mountain, which is real nice. I like the dark shadow. Really makes this mountain pop out against the background. Look, now I've got this kind of cool backlit rim on the mountain that was unintentional from painting it twice. So if I just take white, I was thinking when I did this the first time, oh, I'll just take white and add it to this, because that'll give me a bluish white, and snow shadow is bluish white, right? It seems like it makes sense. But here's the problem. This color is less colorful than this color. So this one gets grayer, because white is really just a light gray or a light black, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the colorless colors. So, think about light on a computer screen. White and black are made the same way, by equal amounts of all the three different colors that the screen uses. So if adding white to something is going to, for the most part, decolorize it. And I need more color for snow. That's why it's really to my advantage to make sure I'm using a more grayish color like I did with the mountain shadow. So the way I do what was all finished up on the mountain when you tuned back in is I just need a more vivid shadow color for the snow. So this is what I'll do. I'll pre-mix. That's what I was doing down here. Instead of red and blue, I'm going to go like this. Now I'm going to put it down here so you can see my paints again. We'll kind of zoom down this way. And I'll put white and blue. Lots of white in here. And I'm going to use magenta now instead of red, because magenta will turn it purple, a little bit purple, which is what I want, because it's really typical to see a little bit. Whenever blue light mixes with anything in nature, whenever blue light bounces off of, it seems like any other color, something causes it to turn more purple. I don't know what it is. Maybe one of you knows. I'm not going to try to get into that right now, but I know that it's really handy to know that, because if I turn this color a little bit purple with some magenta, it's going to look a lot more like shadow on something white, blue light bouncing off of something white. Okay, so now I'm going to go up in here and I'm going to decide where to put my snow. And again, I'm just going to build shapes that are maybe tapering off, getting thinner as they go upward. So I'm just blobbing the snow on here, and over here, I'm going to scrunch my shape. So remember, whenever I have shape and color telling the same story, it's more convincing. So here I want the shape to say that there's perspective of a mountain going back, and the color to say that it's snow. It's the shadowed side of the snow. So we'll go here, and I'm just going to put this snow all over this mountain. This is dry over here, and so this will end up being a real different look if I don't reapply that. So I'll probably stay off this one and redo that the same way, just so that I don't have two really different looking paintings on the same canvas. I'm just rolling my brush around while I make blobs of this snow color on here. But then as I move, I'm just remembering to throw in some little tapering points that go in some direction up. I don't care which direction, just in some direction they go upward. And as long as there's a repeating pattern, we're just so sensitive to texture. You know, have you ever noticed that you can see like what kind of fabric is on my shirt? You can see that. And you can tell that it's not leather that's painted like a t-shirt, right? Because texture, we're just hypersensitive to texture. So when I take this color that I'm going to make a little bit more of right now, and I orient the shapes, I just make the presence of some shapes tapering upward, then it immediately affects the look of the texture of all of these, what would otherwise look like random splotches of paint will now look like the upward tapering pattern of snow that is collected in valleys and is less and less as it goes down, or less and less as it travels up toward rocky cliffs or whatever is on this mountain. Okay, so I'm going to put my shadow color in here. Now it's time to do the highlight color. And so I'm going to mix a more orange color. So I think I want to use a different brush for that. Oh yeah, and that's what I did. Okay, now I'll go over here and mix the highlight color. So we've got white, red, and yellow. I'm just mixing an orange. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little more white. And because I'm working fast and this is wet on wet, it's going to mix with my shadow color. So I can go a little brighter than what I actually need it to be. If I put this just kind of in the middle of these sections, then what that's going to do is orient the light coming right from my direction. So there's less light on either side of a concave shape, because where it's facing right at me, you know, this color is just telling us which part of the shape is facing toward the light. So I'm going to go bottom, center, a little bit left, so that it looks like the light is coming a little bit from the left side. And I'm not going to go up here too much because I want it to look like it's wrapping around that back edge of that. So here's one that's facing right toward the light, but look how I leave a little of that blue showing, just because I don't want this to be completely lit from way over here on the side. I want it to be a little bit to the side. So that's how much I decide to scoot it over to the left. So it appears to be a concave shape because I've got the shapes swooping upward. And so shape is telling us concaved snow valleys, but then the color is in harmony saying the same story. So now I've got two things telling the same story, just like I always like to talk about. And that creates a much more believable and familiar sight. So here, this side of the mountain is wrapping around a little more toward the light, right? So we can take this and just put a whole bunch of this highlight color in here somewhere. A lot less of the shadow on this one. And that'll orient the light from the right side, but not completely way over to the right. You know, so it's fun to be able to control that element, you know. All right, so I'm thinking that it would be cool to see a lot more snow in here. So maybe I'll get a little more white. Maybe this is half shadow, half light. So you know what you do? If I mix orange with blue, it's going to go a little bit green. I don't want green. So it makes gray. So for a level spot between light and shadow, watch this trick. Black and white makes gray. So let's just do some gray for our level spot. And that'll make it gradually transition into the shadow. Right there. Okay, let's get a little more of this. Well, that's a little bit too much white. That's going to be too bright. But I don't want real bright snow because it's going to overtake all the twinkly little stars and the things that I want to be accents. I just wanted more snow on this on this mountain. And this, I decided, well, maybe this is more upward facing on the edge of this peak, but maybe it's not wrapped way around like the bluer shadows, but where it is wrapped way around to the other side, that's where I'm going to use this right here. That's where I'm going to use this color. So let me get a little water. Start moving it to the blue as it comes this way. There, now for me, that just looks so much better than when I simply added white to that blue color. So the moral of the story here is that I need the snow to have vivid color in comparison to the non-white objects surrounding it. I need the comparison. So I don't always need to use vivid colors in a painting, but I need the comparison to be visible. Now I'm kind of putting a little blue edge on it so that the light is coming from where I am and not from behind. So I'm making sure that light isn't wrapping around from behind it now. Just putting this on here. This kind of looks like a little valley going down here. I'm going to put a little more in there. Shadow on that side. Let's make this go down here. And then in here, I did some atmosphere. So I'm just going to dunk the brush in water and run it across here. I'm going to tip this a little bit because I've decided now that I want my whole picture to be kind of tipped, you know, like a camera angle that's a little bit sloped. I always like the movement, kind of the sense of action and movement that adds to a picture. So what I'm doing is looking for the wet paint and the shadows to try to blend that down into this atmosphere that I added. Now you can go back and forth, just like I did on the sky. I can go work on the snow, I can work on the shadow, work on the snow, work on the shadow. And so it's really handy to understand what colors are going to deliver the results if I'm going to do that. It's fun as an artist to be able to freely manipulate, work as long as you want to on an area, but it's not fun if you completely are relying on a technique to deliver the results, and that technique is interfered with once you have to stop and start again. So that's why it's nice I'm not relying on a technique to do this. I'm relying on the understanding of what kind of color combinations are going to give me the look that I'm after. So right here, I'm just adding real dark spots, like maybe they're darker rocks on the shadowed side of the mountain. And maybe I'll go kind of left side of the already shadowed areas. This is red and blue, just like the mountain color, but I just didn't add as much white to it. So here it was a little bit too blue, so put a little of that in there. Feel like I want to see a big rock right here. Just put a big rock up in here. So what if I want to highlight rocks and not snow? Okay, let's do that. So I'll just add maybe I'll just go a grayer version of my orange because the rocks are more gray than the snow. So a less pure colored highlight. This is going to be my rock highlight color. So I'm going to go in here now, and wherever I see, here, let's add a little more red to it because to me that looks a little yellow. So I'm going to add a little red, lean more to the red side. And same thing. Now these, I'm going to favor the right side a little because they're popping out instead of going in. So where I wanted the snow to look like valleys, I kind of favored the left side of all my little patches. But now rocks, since they're popping out, I'll highlight the right side. Now this is going to get darker when it dries. And so knowing that ahead of time, That might not even look like a highlight by the time it dries. So I'm going to lighten it just a little bit. I'm going to go to rightish side, just a little bit to the right of any dark patches. Just wherever I see dark patches, I'm going a little bit to the right so that I get some protruding rocks coming up from my mountain. So I can go back and forth to highlight rocks, highlight snow. The snow has the vivid colors and the rocks have the muted colors. All right, so now I'm going to go over in here and do some of this mountain. Here, let's get a little more on this one. I kind of like this rock in the middle. I want that to show up a little better. Well, here's a good one. Let's turn that into a big pinnacle coming up. I think it'd be kind of neat if they just went right down into the shadow too. Or into the atmosphere. There we go. All right, we're going to paint over all this stuff, so I don't want to leave it all caked up. Now I got to move over and do the same similar process on this side. It looks good already. Space cookie, thanks, space cookie. Okay, I don't need to move the camera actually. So what I'm going to do is go a little bit closer. I'm going to really pull this in tighter so that you can really see what I'm doing here. I want you to see this technique. All right, get a little more this way. I'm seeing a little bit of glare on that, so I'm going to get up close and friendly to get a real good view of this technique here. So first thing I'll do is mountain shadow color. Give myself just a visual, give myself a base to work on. What is this? Leanne says, I read online that you can add up to 30% water to acrylics before the acrylic binder breaks down. Okay. Maybe, I've had different experiences with that. Some paint I've seen, of course, you did say up to 30%, so it's probably a pretty good little tip. You can add a lot. I know I can add a lot. And I have experienced that exact thing, the breakdown of it, where it definitely does not dry. Sometimes it fish eyes, it beads up, does weird things. But trial and error, I guess, is how you find that limit. Okay, I'm just trying to get a similar balance of red and blue that I have over there, using plenty of paint. So, better too much than too little. With too much paint, you at least get to swirl it around and learn what's going to happen. Too little, the painting's over. It just dries fast. You're just doing light little brush strokes, smearing tiny bits of it on, and nothing's happening, So it's really hard to even make progress learning how to manipulate the paints if that happens. I'm adding a little more white because look, my shadow color in here looks a little lighter than this one. So I'm throwing a little bit of this in, and you can see this is how I handle murals where I need a color to match across a large distance. All I do is just match it. I just match what I saw. So here I see that it's a little more blue than red. This is more red. This is more blue. But I've got the lightness now because wet paint should be a little lighter than dry paint. So I'm adding a little red. Distribute those different colors. Yeah, no, that's a match. It's going to dry down and look the same as these shadow colors in here. So while I'm at it, I can add little things in it and get crazy with the details. It's fun doing details when all a detail is a brush stroke, and you get all this credit for details, but really all that was done was making believable light and shadow, and then those colors make the shapes for you. It takes so much less work to actually produce details. Okay, so now let's reverse it. Let's do rocks first, then snow. So I'm going to do my highlight color on the rocks with black, white, and a little bit of orange, right? So I had red in there and some yellow. And now we've got kind of a brownish orange color. Okay, and let's see how that compares. Not bad. Okay, so rocks, I'm just going to go like this, a bunch of downward strokes, different sizes, slightly different directions, and I'm going to get rocks on this mountain. I'm going to do some patches that have a lot. Let's make a ridge coming down here like that. Make another ridge right here because I got a little point there, and that'll be fun. Okay, then I'll get a little bit more white in it, make a lighter set of highlights, you know, so that I've got more three-dimensional rock here. Some in there, put a little bit up in here. I don't need a lot. I don't want to go crazy with this because I want to leave myself room for lots of snow. And here I want some perspective. So I'm going to flatten out the shapes a little bit. Okay, then let's do snow. So I'll get my blue brush, which was this one. So I'm just going to wipe some paint off of that, and let's do our white, blue, magenta mix for the shadow color of the snow. And I'll do it right here because in that area I'm going to have that light fog anyway, so it's a good spot to use for that color. So I need a much more vivid color. Well, just more at all. I think that if you just have it look more colored than that, it's the presence of the effects. And so you can decide how extreme you make it. So I don't need this to be a super saturated color, except that it's a super saturated painting. So I'm stuck making this one a real bright as possible purple, really, is what I'm doing. That's just because of how bright the whole picture already is. Okay, so now snow in the shadows. So I'm not going to put it right on the bright parts of the rocks. I'm going to go to the shadows. I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to start putting patches of snow that are going to start at the bottom of a dark area and then maybe start traveling upward as if it's in a valley, and there are little tiny valleys coming down and connecting with those bigger valleys. But, you know, I just don't want to be too tedious with details prematurely, so I'm going to be real loose with my technique and just let it happen. If I accidentally paint shadow color over a highlight area up the mountain, if it matters and it shows up, I can always adjust it later. Let's put a few of these shadowy snow colors over here on this giant spot, and then really put it on the shady side of this mountain. And I think up here on the top is in order. Let's really bring it all the way to the edge. It's kind of like this, you know. I love blue on orange. Oh man, I just can't get enough of that. I feel happy inside when I look at blue on orange. Okay, I'm just going to make sure we've still got a stream. I've been looking at my... If you listen to Joe and follow him, you'll be able to paint something. This, I thank you. Hey, thank you a lot. Thanks for that comment. Joe, how do you deal with acrylics drying darker than when wet? Which colors dry darkest? Darker colors dry darker. The more pigment, the more dark pigment it has, the more that effect is. So white doesn't really do that. It's these colors. And so I just predict it. Like I had to match this shadow color to this shadow color. And you can see I'm a little off. If you look at this spot, it's a little more purple and darker here, a little bit bluer and lighter here, but it's very close. So I just predict the amount that it's going to darken when it dries. And that's just from playing in the paint and getting familiar with what it looks like, you know. It's like, how do you know which muscles to twitch at what time to throw a ball at a target? It's really an advanced motor skill, but most of us can do it better than another creature. You know, the muscle memory takes over, and you do things you never thought you could do. I feel like memorizing just how much of one color to add over another is very similar to that. You just get used to the sight of it, and you just kind of get a real quick impulse, and it comes more naturally to you the more you do it. Okay, so now it's time for highlight color. And we're going to go white. And here, let's just use this color. This is my maroon right here. So this is the color I'm using. And this is just a pigment. It's not mixed. It's just a maroon pigment. But remember that I mixed red and yellow. So here, I'm just going to use this, which is like a red and yellow, but it's a shortcut. You know, this is just a real quick shortcut to it. And oh, I forgot, I'm doing snow highlight. I don't want to do that. I was going to do rock highlights. All right. I messed up. Let's just highlight some rocks since I've got the color now. Nothing else to do with that big blob of paint. Let's put some rock highlights in there. I meant to do snow highlights, but maybe this will just make the painting all the better for it. All right, here we've got some fun little highlights on the rocks now. Highlights aren't highlights if you do them everywhere. You know, you got to pick your best spots. Oh, that was. I'm happy with that decision. Let's put a ridge going down here. Okay, snow. I meant to do snow. So we need a brighter orange. I need brighter highlight than what I have on the rocks. So let's do yellow and red and then white. And this is going to be the last thing we do for this video. We're going to finish up the snow. We'll tackle the touch up of the cloud and adding the stream lake down in here in the next video. So I'm just getting this bright peachy color to put snow right in here. So valleys, I'm going to hug the left side as extremely as I want the light to be to the right. So if it's right at my back, then I would go right to the center of these valleys. But since I want it to be a little bit to the right, I'm going to go a little bit left of center on the light. So let's put it in here up at the base of this rock. Look, we can bring it right up to the base of some of these. If I've got shadow, you know, I can bring that highlight up in there. I'm just looking for blue spots, just looking for shadow spots where I can put this next to it and get my bright snow highlight. Just put it toward the left side of any blue spots. And for anybody that didn't see the technique I'm using, I've got the brush like this on the canvas. I'm using this point of the brush, just lightly touching the canvas, making sure that the paint is thick enough and wet enough. I've really got this paint caked on here, and that lets me do a light touch and get a real good transfer of paint. I'm going to go in here. The more I can make little gradients on this snow, the more it'll look like it gradually goes into the shadow rather than being a separate object. So hard shapes, you know, hard edges, they can be good. But if I really want to make this snow look 3D, look like it really wraps around these shapes, then what I'll do after I get these highlights on is kind of clean out my brush. I'm going to go to wherever they blend and try to make those blends a little bit smoother. So here it's a little smoother here. I'm just going to the right edge of any of these little patches of sunlit snow. Now I want to let you know that I had to put enough red in this that it doesn't turn green when I do this. So when highlight meets blue, you got a real problem with mimicking natural light. And so what needs to be done to correct the green problem is magenta. This is magenta. And where this meets the blue, it's going to look a lot more like natural light if I put that magenta right in that transition. It replaces the magenta that naturally gets filtered out by the paint particles settling on top of each other like transparent lenses. And so I just put that magenta right in the transitions, right where the highlight meets the blue. And that's going to fix what I call the green problem. Blue always turns green no matter what you mix it with. It gets greener, and you can add magenta to your blue and whatever other color mix to get it back to something that looks a little more like natural light. But I got to be careful that I don't go too extreme. I don't want little magenta dots. I'm just using it as an ingredient in the mix. So I'll just hit that a couple times till I don't see magenta anymore, but I don't see green either. And then I get my nice, believable highlights in these little patches of snow. Let's put a little more white in here. Now this is right. I can cheat a little bit and get real bright with this snow, even though I won't get that bright over here because I don't want to compete with the stars. But in here, I can get pretty bright. It's far enough away from the stars. It's going to get compared with this big bright cloud, and it's going to look pretty cool to light it up just like that cloud. So we'll go here, add more in this area. Lots of highlights toward the left side, so this really looks like the light is coming from over there. Let's get a little more white. Little more, little more. And then I'll just blend it down into this. So watch. Again, here's my highlight color, right? And I'm doing this snow coming down this slope. I need to start turning it into shadow where it slopes back up on this side. And so I want it to mix into the blue. Let's grab some of that blue and mix it. Oh, that looks a little bit too green. Here's what I do. I grab some magenta, put that in the mix. This is what we end up spending a lot of time on in my workshops, is learning how to strategically use these colors to blend light with shadow. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more rock up on this one because I want to make it feel like I'm really looking up. Let's back out and look at this picture now. Let's get a good zoomed out view. Let me get it out here. Oh yeah, it's fun looking at the small picture on the on the monitor screen. It's fun looking at it zoomed out. You know, you get a way better feel of the overall picture and what the colors are doing. But when I'm right up on it, I see my brush stroke. So, you know, this is something to remember. Give yourself some time. Look at it with fresh eyes where you're not memorizing every brush stroke you painted. I think that you'll like your results better if you just give it that overnight, you know, sleep on it. It's a good rule of life, right? Sleep on it before you say it doesn't look good. And I never like to throw away progress for being incomplete, because progress by nature is an incomplete thing. So if you practice these techniques and you find yourself not arriving at results you love, I just, you know, want to challenge you to look for the little thing that actually is done better than what you might have done otherwise. You know, always give yourself credit for that one little spot. Oh, well, I do have this one little dot on my painting that looks like light and shadow. Look for that spot. You know, it's worth doing, because that's how we make progress. I always had to do that for myself in order to survive, in order to tell myself that I was making progress, and I wasn't just pretending to be an artist on somebody's wall. I'm just bringing the rocks up a little bit higher because I want to see like some towering pinnacles right here. Going to add a little white to this color. There we go. We've kind of got a ridge going down there now. Then I can take my snow shadow color. Let's get more of that. Let's go white and magenta and blue. Let's get that nice purple color mixed with the white and put it right in here. Like this. Get a little more magenta. That looks a little turquoise. And here's where I'm really thinking about those little points that go up into valleys. So if I do this, it'll go up in between these rocks. Like that. I got a couple ridges coming down off of this hill. So let's grab that highlight color and put a little of that in there. Some white. This orange is getting kind of gray from my other colors, but I don't think it's too big of a deal. Still bright enough to give a little hint of light striking the left sides of those valleys. Coming down like that. Okay, we've got mountains. Now I'm ready to put more in this scene. And so I'm thinking that I'm going to do that next time. I'm going to end this stream and I'm going to sleep on it, because it really helps me come up with better ideas if I rest my mind and come back with a fresh look. No matter how proficient I feel like I'm becoming in my work, it never fails to help me tremendously to take a break and look at it with fresh eyes. And then that reminds me of how good I'm not, because I'll come back and see things that are better than I thought they were. But, like the other day, I'm drawing a person. I'm trying to get better at human form. And my imagination was telling me that it was perfect as I was drawing it, but it was not. I saw everything crooked about it when I came back with fresh eyes. So I need fresh eyes. I always need to get those fresh eyes back before I get too far with my work. I just wanted like a nice bright spot somewhere on this so it really pops out. Put more up in there. I'm just kind of scrambling the shapes a little bit, seeing what rocks I can live without. It looked a little bit too evenly distributed for me. This paint's going to darken as it dries too, so we'll see if the effect changes at all. Okay. Saw a few spots in there that could use some highlight. Let's go a little bit more in here. Oh yeah, that was a good addition. Then I'm going to put a little more red in it for that. I like that coming across because that gradual blend feels like nice smooth transition into the shadow for me. Okay, now let's make some atmosphere down here. We've got to smooth this out. I don't want a whole ton of texture on my picture for when I come back to it. So, you know what this needs? This does need one more thing here. I better get a little purple. So this is kind of looking green from what I'm mixing. I just want a more distant peak behind this one. My mountain feels a little 2D because I don't have any peaks behind peaks. Let's go like this. Magenta, blue, and a little bit of white. Let's see how much we need. Let's put a peak behind. Yeah, there we go. Maybe put a little bit of white in there. I'm actually not sure what to do to that little peak back there. Do that. Maybe just a little more highlight color. A little shadow color, a little highlight color, we'll call it good. We'll do a little bit of our blue magenta. Let's get our nice bright blue magenta mix here. Put this on there, get a little blue. And go in here, do some snowy highlights. That, okay, we got some snowy highlights. Got some rocks on it because we've got the two different values. So now I'll get a little bit of my orange color. Another way to get an orange that's not too vivid is magenta and yellow. See me doing it over here. And then get some white. Okay, there's a highlight color and left side. Let's get a little more white. Yeah, just a little bit in there. That's all it needs. That's it right there. That's all it needs. Then maybe just a little bit of magenta to make sure there's no green in the mixes. So right in here, where it's starting to mix a little bit. Magenta, magenta, magenta. Clean out the brush. Okay, now we're going to take this magenta and just stir it into that highlight a little bit. There we go. Now we got shadow mixing into highlight on my distant peak there. Then it kind of tapers down into makes it look like that kind of goes down into a distant shadow. I'm going to put a dark ridge on that just so you can see the difference between the two. Dark ridge, here we go. Right here. Just to create a little bit of depth. There we go. Now I've got the darker peak in front of the lighter one. All right. That's how you do snowy mountains. Man, I'm spending forever on these. So whatever shapes you do, you can see that getting the light and shadow in here is the real difference maker. Getting a three-dimensional mountain, I feel, is a lot more valuable than getting just the right shape of mountain or the right kind of mountain. I just decided these rocks need a little shadow on the left side. I really do want to stop. It's just hard when I've been going and I'm in paint mode. Put a few little dots in here, down this side. Just trying to randomize it a little bit, that's all. Let's get a little highlight on that guy. Okay, now the atmosphere. Okay, we were doing like a light gray violet atmosphere, right? Gray, blue, violet is what we want to add some atmosphere to this. So I'm going to get some water. Then we're going to be done with it. So here oh no, you can see the whole picture. I'm making sure you can see the whole picture. Would you ever use a palette knife for mountains? I would love to try that. I should try that. So that's something for a future video. But I'm intimidated by Bob Ross, the master. People send me Bob Ross stuff, you know, all the time. I get Bob Ross things for Christmas, my birthday. It's so fun. You know, he really is, blows me away how good he got results so fast. So I'll try that. Love your work, Joe from Tucson. Hey, all right. Thank you, Nico. That's where my grandma and grandpa live. Barbara and Jim Bruner are my grandparents. Maybe you'll run into him someday. Also, Joe Pajak, another great muralist, also is down there in Tucson. Yeah, that tool Bob Ross uses for his mountains. Yeah, that's a palette knife. That's it. I think some black wise in the last peak would look awesome. Some black, and like some little black accents. No, I don't know, would it? Let's try it. Let's do this. Get the red and blue in there. Just a little bit back there, but I got to keep it a little lighter and maybe grayer than the rest. So let's add a little more red to that blue. Here, that wasn't red, that was maroon. We don't want to get too dark because we want it to look distant. Okay. Let's do this atmosphere. Let's go like this. And now all I want is just, I'm going to use a bigger brush. I just want to color that, you know, it can have some areas more lit by my orange highlight, some areas more blue, but I'm just going to make sure that I watch out for green. Okay, so I see a little bit of green in here. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go here. There's too much green there where it meets the yellow. And there's too much green right in here, too much green where this blue meets, too much green there. So anywhere I see too much green, that's where that magenta needs to go to correct it. Okay, so now I'm just going to blend that wherever I see that green color. Get some nice purple atmosphere now. Yeah, this will be fun having that atmosphere in there. And then I'll grab some of my red and blue that I had for the mountain shadow. Let's just mix it right here. Okay, red and blue. Blend it down into that color. I went heavy on the blue, not too heavy on the red. So let's grab a little more of that red, mix it in here. Maybe a little more blue. Now I'm a little heavy on the red. There we go. So I'm just finding this edge where it looks like it's not too softly blended, and then I'm just going to put that on there. I can always build more rocks and highlights, but this soft blend, if I get that in place, it'll add some magic to my picture. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint over whatever rocks I need to paint over to get that in there and ready for the next layer of content, which I think is going to be some water. I need water in there. Yeah, mist coming off of a mountain stream. That's what I'm feeling. All right. Let's get that. Maybe get a bigger brush. Do a softer layoff. I love how with the water-based paint, you know, I see how people have been asking water-based paint or oil. With water-based paint, I could just very quickly just go right over it and do this effect. No waiting for it to dry, you know. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. We're gonna call it a day. So let me just scoot this camera back a little bit, and I'm gonna come over here, and just for a moment, I am going to see the last bit of comments before I shut her down. I've got to shut down the live stream for now. So I want to say thank you again for your patience as I'm streaming this from my house. The internet signal isn't always perfect. It's still wireless. Got to fix that. So I got to tell you, for a minute, I had my doubts about those mountains, but as usual, you pulled it off. Great snow on the mountains. Thank you, Jacqueline. And when I paint, my painting ends up abstract. Yeah. Hey, all right. Nothing wrong with abstract. Is that oil paint, Joe? Water-based paint. Easy to blend the colors. I always struggle. I just move fast and use lots of paint. You'll see that as a common theme in my videos. This is a very productive way, a very productive thing to do when quarantining. Yeah, that's what I've been doing with my time, like all of you too. What productive thing can I be doing while I'm here at my house, not on paint jobs with other people? Thank you very much. Val Thatcher says it looks fantastic. Might have been wrong about the Y's in the last peak. Yeah, well, I don't know. You never know till you try something. I thought it was a great idea. It was worth trying. Grace Artistry. Hey, Joe, it was great to meet you around Christmas time. You are such an inspiration. Thank you very much, Grace. Oh, Grace. I forgot my username, who you are. I had such a fantastic time with Grace. It was such a good time. We went out to a local restaurant and back to the studio, checked out some paintings, talked about her work is amazing. You got to see Grace Artistry. Look at her work. It's fantastic. And so, yes, it's always fun when somebody travels through Flagstaff and gets a hold of me. I love hanging out. So if you're ever coming through Arizona and you want to make the trip to Flagstaff, I love seeing you. Keep doing this stuff. The people will come. Don't stop. You have an awesome time. Thank you very much for that encouragement. I am not a good promoter, like probably many artists. Not a great promoter, but I like people. I like my work. I get a lot of satisfaction, so I definitely will not stop. Water You Do is always my favorite part. Okay, that's next, the next one. And I'm going to do that tomorrow, okay? So tomorrow at 2 p.m. You can put that on your calendar now. I'm going to send out a reminder letter. We'll do tomorrow. I'm not sure what other days of the week we can squeeze in, but I'm thinking on it. I get so tense when you whip your brush around, but it always comes out beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I set my mind early on in my career to understand what the end result needed to be color and shape wise. What is the colors? What is the shapes that are going to my mind and saying you're seeing rocks and snow? Everything I paint is that way, so that whatever technique ends up being developed, the end goal is not the technique. Techniques are just a different road to a ultimate destination of a believable production, Thanks, Joe. Thoroughly enjoyed the video. Bye from Perth, Australia. Hey, all right. Thank you. My next door neighbor's from Australia, man. But thank you so much for tuning in from Australia. Thank you. I want to see how you paint water. We're gonna do it. Okay. I like the painting with the boat and intense setting. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna end the live stream, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Those of you that can make it. I want to thank you again. Remember, I have lots of videos that are for sale at muraljoe.com. If you want more instructional content, you can look there. And of course, I want to remind you to subscribe if you would be so kind to give me that honor. It means a lot to me. All right. We'll see you later.